Good morning, and welcome to the Live at the Waterhole show. This morning we are opening with Camphor's Dam and our flock of lesser flamingo. My name is Stefan Winterboer, and you're going to be with me 3 hours. And I cannot wait to share today with you. So, looks like it's going to be a busy day, to be honest with you. There is lots of different weather patterns around the whole country. South Africa today, some places is flooding, some places is absolutely baking hot, other places are windy. It's really a great day. And Camphor's Dam is absolutely not immune to any of that. In fact, I see the wind has completely changed direction from yesterday. Wind is blowing from the opposite direction yesterday. Now, for those of you just joining the show, it is a live and interactive show. If you want to ask us some questions, please do send through your comments, questions, any observations you made, topics for discussion, whatever you feel. You can do that by registering on the WildEarth website. And it is a live show. And that means that what you're looking at right now is what's happening right now. It's 9:31 here in the morning, South Africa. And we're watching this flock of lesser flamingo busy preening themselves and getting themselves ready for the day. Some birds may have arrived overnight. They do change pans at nighttime, so it's going to be interesting to see if we can note whether the flock from yesterday increased or decreased in size, but we'll do that over some time. Why don't we go and have a look at a summary of the weather at the different locations that we've got cameras at today? Right, goodness me. Okay, so where we're at now is Jamala. We've managed to jump locations from Camphor's Dam, 100 kilometers north, and now we're in Madikwe Game Reserve. And as the name would suggest, live at the waterhole means that we've got a couple of cameras at different waterholes all over the country, all over South Africa. We've also got one in Namibia. We've got one in Kenya as well. So one in Zimbabwe. And so it is a really, really great thing to have, to be honest with you. We spoiled for choice. And what we're having a look here is we're having a look at a herd of elephant, some wildebeest and some zebra who are drinking at Jamala. You might get in the distance, you might get a few noises coming from the camp just behind it. The camp was burned down a couple of months ago and they've been rebuilding it furiously ever since. An absolute necessity in an area as remote as this. Tourism lodges are responsible for most of the employment opportunities. And so a building project and a chance to run a hotel or a lodge is a wonderful thing in areas like this. Now, interestingly, this what is at the back there? It looks like a buffalo. You notice that although same black coloration as the wildebeest, a much thicker body. And so you're looking at, apart from these elephants jostling with one another, you're looking at a Cape buffalo, another one of the big five. So what I was saying is, interestingly, these elephants have created this bank here in their efforts to establish a wallow. What they tend to do is kick at the banks and tusk them to put sediment into the mud, and then they agitate it all up before going for a mud bath. And we see lots of ellies going for mud baths here. But on a day like today, they are drinking from the water here. The water is drying up. It is a time of year where water sources become hotly contested, particularly permanent clean water sources. It is a small herd of Cape buffalo moving across the top of the screen. I can see a youngster there, so a breeding herd of Cape buffalo as well. Big animals. Looking at an adult bull buffalo weighing around 800 to 900 kilograms, which is about 1,600 to 1,900 pounds. Definitely not an animal to be trifled with. They have a fearsome reputation. These little illies, elephants tend to be quite protective over their water. Anna Marie, you've sent in a question, well, a comment this morning. So firstly, good morning to you. The first one on the comments today. You said, "Wow, lots of action and diversity at Jamala." No, you're 100% right. We've got wildebeest, buffalo, zebra, and elephant, and we're just in a relatively small patch of the pan. We can zoom out and we can have a look at what else is around the pan itself. It is a very busy pan, this, and I think it's because it sits in a bit of a drainage line. It's secluded between these hills. There's even an impala, so even more animals. And so, yeah, I think that it's a great pan because of the fact that it seems to be hidden, so it offers animals enough of a concealed approach if they want it, an open approach if they want it. Lots of different vegetation types in the area, so there's food available. Well, in summer at least, anyway. All right, but the beauty is that we've got other cameras as well. So as those elephants leave the screen, let's go and have a look at Old Donyo in Kenya. So just like that, we come 5,000 kilometers north, crossed over 4 countries. And the first thing we are dazzled by is this huge herd of zebra and some Patterson's eland. And at the back on the left-hand side, we've got some fringiate oryx. These are the usual characters that we have at this pan, and elephant and Maasai giraffe as well. And it is also an incredibly busy pan. We see so many animals coming down here. It really is amazing. And we were finding out that these zebra herds, about 2 weeks ago, these zebra herds were coming in here numbering roughly 20 individuals or so. A herd today looks like we've got even more than that. No, they're around about that. And they tend to come into the water and make a big splash.
Do you want to touch the lives of future protectors of our Earth? Thanks to our wonderful WildEarth explorers, WildEarth Kids is back. Sign your class up for WildEarth schools and enjoy a special virtual field trip to Africa with interactive learning tailored for kids.
Very warm welcome to the kids from WildEarth Primary School.
We'll be dedicating the first hour of sunset safaris every Wednesday to our planet's future defenders. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
So cool seeing these fringe-eared oryx. I do say it often, but it's also because we got so many new viewers that join us from time to time. But they're quite unique to this area. These oryx occur in a very small population group just in this area. You're not going to see them anywhere else, not in Namibia, not in South. And although fairly common at this camera, or at Africam Aldonia cam feed, we don't see them anywhere else. So it's quite nice to see. Then, it is WildEarth's mission to reconnect people with nature, and your help is really much appreciated. If you feel like you could donate something, please do head over to our website and hit the donate button. Every little bit helps and helps us to keep the show going. So thank you, and thank you to those that have donated. Much appreciated. So much movement. It's crazy. So as our team in Johannesburg, let me know how things are going. I heard in the background there that you got some zebra calling. So it's such an interesting noise, zebra calling. You hear it from kilometers away, actually. Really nice. I'll leave you for a few seconds to carry on listening to the noises here. So many animals, it's just such a great thing to do. Don't need me droning off in the distance, right? I've never actually heard the noise of a fringe-eared oryx, to be honest with you, but and oryx in general don't really make a lot of noise. Quite nice, huh? The zebra, you tend to get a bit desensitized to zebra because you see them all the time. You forget just how fantastic these animals actually are. Cooksters, good morning, world. Good day to you are in the world. You've just made a comment about the oryx saying that their horns are just like long swords. I agree with you. There's just something scary about horns like that, and especially that they're that sharp. And when I mean sharp, I mean if you had to take your hand and put it around the end of that horn and just rest your thumb or push your thumb onto the point, you could actually break the skin. They are rapier sharp. And you see them going down on their knees quite often and fighting with one another. They have disagreements with each other, and then every now and again we see feisty males give even zebra and elephant to go. And they've got I've never seen it with my own eyes, but I have friends in the industry who've seen it, where oryx are attacked by lion and end up reversing into thorn bushes and fending off the lion with their horns. And you can just see, I wouldn't like a thing like an oryx bounding at me with their horns. You can do some damage. All these zebra in such good condition. You know, normally with zebra, you see them and they got a variety of different scratches, scrapes, and any number of things, not just from each other, but also from lion and hyena, crocodile. But these zebra tend to be in such great condition. Not many of them carry many scars. Not them are carrying fresh injuries. There was one we saw with some scrape marks the other day on her butt. But in general, they're all super healthy. It'll be interesting to see what the frequency of changes around this pan today. Gio, you've sent in a comment, so good morning, and you say that zebra always seem to panic around water. It's not just around water, Gio. They panic for everything. You see them galloping around for the most absurd reasons. They're very intelligent, and they're also super aware. And so I think it's I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a survival strategy. I just think it's just a mark of their general temperament. But zebra definitely are feisty creatures, as opposed to elephant, which, you know, youngsters can get a bit feisty. Gosh, they're kicking one another hard. Thankfully, their skin is really tough, especially on their flanks and their shoulders where they nip at one another and kick at one another. Their skin is really thick there. And they can take a fair beating. I must be honest with you. You see zebras sometimes going at each other, biting each other like crazy. Such an interesting phenomenon. I seem to get a hay fever attack every single time I start the show. I have no idea what it's all about, but anyway, nonetheless, it's an observation. There in the distance is a cloud bank. You can see that cloud bank, and that cloud bank is actually growing over Mount Kilimanjaro, the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, about 5,800 feet. And the air is so clear. I wonder if we're lucky enough to see the cloud clear, we'll see some of the mountains on the left-hand side. All right, why don't we hop back over to South Africa and our African towel feed to go and see what's around that pan. Tau is in Madikwe, and it's just one of those pans that over the last couple of days has just been delivering a non-stop experience from start to finish, and today is no exception. We've got a pair of warthog and an impala in view. So yeah, and there, top of the screen coming in now, we got some more animals. Look like some zebra coming in. Madikwe is one of South Africa's largest game reserves, around about 80,000 hectare, and is right on the Botswana border, and it sits between the desert and the bushveld biomes. And so you get these overlaps of pretty weird and wonderful creatures. It's a great place to go. The biodiversity in Madikwe is actually off the scale. This is a young male impala. Firstly, because he has horns, but also secondly, if you have a look at the horn tips, the last inch are pointing toward one another, and that is a sure sign of immaturity in most of the antelope species out here. So if their horn tips are pointing toward one another, they are immature, parallel to one another, prime, pointing away from one another, past prime. And each of those three categories have their benefits. Obviously, the youngsters are the next generation. The prime guys are fighting with one another for mating rights and obviously securing the next generation. And then the older guys that are past their prime act as interesting, no, not interesting, that's the wrong choice of word, act as training providers for the youngsters, teaching them how to fight in non-lethal combat so that they build up the skill that they need for when they do end up fighting in the rut for mating rights, which can sometimes be very lethal combat. It's not uncommon for impala to kill each other in the rut. Then we're looking at a pale impala whose horn tips look parallel. So prime ram, there you go, you can see maybe even pointing slightly outward, so slightly past prime by a year or two. We say congratulations to those impala for sure.
Get ready for your daily dose of African wildlife magic. Be enchanted by the intimate moments shared by the animals as they drink, play, and interact in their natural habitat. With our daily wildlife videos, you'll experience the thrill of safari adventures without ever having to leave your seat. Let the wild adventure unfold right before your eyes. Africam, always live, always wild.
So you can see a dominant ram impala. He's been licking his back. He's a big guy. Those horns are pretty well developed. But Madikwe has got a reputation for fairly large impala. See, there's another male impala here in amongst the female, also got parallel horns. And he's slightly younger by half a season. It'll be interesting to see if he's actually the one who's the prime ram of this particular herd. There's some more guinea fowl coming out of the back of the pan there. Some Egyptian geese off on the left-hand side. All the usual characters today around African Tau Lodge, which is quite nice. It's hot today, and I'm assuming that we're going to see some elephant at some point or another. I definitely think this male coming out to the water is the Mac Daddy of the herd. I think that other one that we saw in the background that left the screen a little bit earlier, I think he was a male just past prime. These females are all pregnant at the moment. There you can see him going. I think he's just a bit. Goodness, it's tough to say. You'd have to see him interacting with other males to know for sure. They're both great specimens. Now, talking about elephants, Jamala Cam has some for us to go and have a look at. Say we've come a couple of kilometers away in the same game reserve. We're still in Madekwe, but at a different pan. This one is Jamala, where we have a herd of elephants still busy drinking, and another herd of elephant approaching out of the bush at the top of the screen. You can see that very characteristic red color of the elephants in this part of the world, and they get that from the dust that they dust bathe themselves with. Fairly big one coming out of the bush as well. This female in the herd in front of us, she's also got noticeably long tusks. It's going to be interesting seeing the dynamic. Where these elephants are clustered is where the fresh water, the best tasting, cleanest water comes into the pan. And I wonder what these bull elephant, those two big guys at the back, they're going to do when they get to the water. Are they just going to be content to drink the water at the wallow on the right where that other elephant is drinking, or are they going to come and push their way into the fresh water? We'll see now. And also, is the female, the matriarch in this herd, going to tolerate them? So it's going to be an interesting thing to see whether they choose the less confrontational approach, or if they're just going to come in here and bully their way into the clean water. It's about a 50% chance of that happening at the moment. See the elephant shaking their heads on the way in there like those zebras. That bobbing notion, or that bobbing motion with the head, is characteristic of elephant coming down to a pan. There's a small greeting. Just want to apologize for the slight break in the audio. We've had some issues in South Africa this weekend, so my voice every now and again will sound a bit weird. I apologize for that. It's just the little gremlins that we deal with, bringing you a live show from some of the most remote places on Earth. And I apologize for that. Right, so these ellies are now coming around the back of the pan. I think they're going to they're going to try and bully this herd out of the way. Yeah, look at this. Rushing in, he gives way. Reluctantly. Tail up. For most of the adult cows, head up, ears out. Not happy with being disturbed. Putting in a big protest. They're not finished drinking yet. And who are these boys to just come in and bully their way in here without it so much as a please? Crazy. Shows you how thirsty they are. This time of the year, resources are poor. Food resources, water resources, Definitely limited, and that creates a large amount of stress for everyone. It's a great view. You can see that bull elephant that came in there now. The elephant on the left, the two females, temporal glands have started to leak out. That's just an indication of stress and anxiety. Fiona, you're saying it's incredible sounds of these elephants. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, elephants are very, very loud. And what's happening is that female is putting in a proper protest. I actually don't have an audio feed from this camera into where I'm sitting in my location in the Kruger Park. So I'm just assuming that with her mouth being opened like that, she was, voicing her opinion with a squeal and a screech. And I'm judging from the fact that they are from their leaking temporal glands that these females are not happy with these males. And so I've just been told that they definitely are screeching and squealing. So I'll keep quiet for a bit while you listen. And I mean, elephant screaming is actually chilling, to be honest. Spine tingling, what's it? Chilling. Right, so they've stopped screaming now and are making friends with one another. The females voiced their protest, but because that male is so much bigger, they couldn't do anything against him. If they decided to act super aggressive and he decided to retaliate in defense of himself, he can actually do damage to those females, and they got calves to think about as well. And so, while it would have been a very loud protest, I don't think that ultimately there would have been much to gain from a confrontation. You can see that baby still wants to suckle there. See how he's lifted his trunk above his head on the far left hand side to reach that female's mammary glands between her front legs. See this bull elephant. He's full grown, still not really wanting to share. Poor guy, I suppose he is thirsty as well. Because food resources are so scarce at the moment, elephants are feeding around 20 hours a day, which means that they will only be drinking once, possibly twice in a day. You probably find that he didn't drink. The way he came in, it looks like he hasn't seen water since yesterday, the same time, or possibly even earlier. And it is not a male. It's a female. Gosh. Am I mistaken? There's a big one on the right, the one that came in and disturbed the apple cart, that I assumed was a male. It's a male now. He's coming in from the right, a youngster. This big red one, he or she came in. Difficult to say because his size is so much bigger. Kiwi girl, you say these elephants squealing sounds more like a pig and not an ellie. 100%. Elephant can make a most amazing amount of sounds, including sounds that we can't hear. So elephant can squeal and scream like they did, which is terrifying. Like nails on chalkboard, actually. But they can also make ultra low frequency sounds called infrasound. They're big enough to do that. So it's not just not dolphins, whales that can do that. It's also land based mammals like elephant and giraffe. And these ultra low frequency sounds carry through the bush a lot more effectively than higher frequency sounds, but are outside of our ability to hear. And so you need equipment to record their noises. But definitely within the audible range for humans, the elephants fill it from high pitched squeals and trumpets all the way down to low rumbles that you feel more than hear. So the question is that big one that came in there a female or a male? From this angle, I'm reluctant to want to say definitively. It seemed like she was a female. I first thought it was a male. I still think there's a possibility that it's a male. But anyway, we'll let her drink in this position and possibly change position when we come back in a little bit and see if we can answer that particular conundrum. In the meantime, why don't we go and do some birding at Katai Pan? There you go. So just like that, we came about 1,000 kilometers east. We're now in the Greater Kruger National Park, where it is going to be a blisteringly hot day, going right up into the hundreds. And what we're looking at here is a pair of Egyptian geese at one of our favorite pans. Noticeably, we aren't seeing our terrapin character that we've come to know. He's chilling in the water somewhere. He loves coming out on that beach on the far side, just to the right of the reeds, but we haven't seen him today yet, unless he's on a different part of the Pan's bank. Totally possible. But we don't see very many Egyptian geese actually at this particular pan, or at least I haven't. They're very common birds out here. Grass eaters. Highly vigilant. They make fantastic watchdogs. Noisy characters. And they live in these monogamous pairs, so they mate for life. You'll notice that there's a small smudge on the screen just below the center. That was from yesterday, I think, or the day before. We had an elephant getting quite, I suppose, committed to his mud bath. And some of the mud misshot the elephant and landed on the lens of the camera. And there hasn't been someone with some free time to come and clean it off just yet. So don't worry about that. It'll be jumped on in due course. But a nice story nonetheless. While we wait. Egyptian geese always look like their feathers are in absolutely perfect condition. Obviously, just like any other bird, they spend a large portion of their day maintaining their feathers. But for some reason, their feathers are just, I think it's mainly the coloration of their feathers. There's like these soft, what is that there in the distance? A jackal. Yeah, we got a black-backed jackal coming in for a drink. That's epic. So that is something that we don't really see during the daytime. Well, you see them during the day, obviously, but you don't really see them coming to drink. You'll hear these Egyptian geese start to give their alarm call. That's a black-backed jackal as opposed to the side-striped jackal, which has a white tip to the end of the tail. And he's going to come in for a drink, disturbing these geese. Let's see where he's going to drink. He'll probably come around the front.
Are you looking to take your bond with the wild to the next level? Download our app and access in-depth chats with our naturalists and special guests. Connect and converse in real time on our Ask Me Anythings, fireside chats, hangouts, and town halls. WeChat, available on the WildEarth app. WildEarth, we are Safari.
Yeah, the jackal just came through the front of the screen. So this jackal is busy hunting this area for some reason. Something's got his interest here. There's a vulture that's just come in. That's a white-backed vulture. Gosh, this pan is great. I wonder if there isn't a kill nearby. And that's why we're seeing the jackal and the vulture coming in for a drink. Another vulture. Another vulture. Let's see how many more come in. Another one. Another one. Oh, there definitely is a kill around. You can see vultures in the background there just piling in. Gosh, that's amazing. What a treat. These giant scavengers of the bush are responsible for eating more meat in a short period of time than all the other predators in Africa combined. And their function is to reduce decomposing flesh in the bush, which left unchecked will choke the bush with harmful bacteria. And so vultures form an unbelievably important part in the bush's ecosystem and balance. So what I'm just told by Azumi reporting in that there were some lions at Katai Pan yesterday. So there's a good chance that they killed something either then or during the course of the evening. And we're seeing these vultures coming to have a drink either prior to their meal or after. It's tough to say without having exact on-the-ground intelligence, but the presence of that jackal and now of these vultures in these numbers, I would say there's a high likelihood of there being a kill in the area. And who knows what might come out to Katapan this morning. Why do you even have those lions grace us with their presence? Wouldn't that be cool? Heather, you want to, well, firstly, you said how epic, and then you wanted to know if is vultures and jackals have a good sense of smell. The answer to that question is yes, they have an amazing sense of smell. And can, not just in vultures, obviously rely on their eyesight as well, but they also do have an incredible sense of smell. And jackal is exactly the same. This vulture is just opening his wings to dry off a little. Had a bit of a bath. You can see how wet the feathers are. These are mostly white-backed vultures, the more common of the bushveld vulture. We do have a very healthy population of Cape vulture in this area, or Cape griffon, but they are threatened globally. Vulture numbers in general are taking an absolute hammering. They are traded on the traditional medicine markets, and often carcasses are poisoned and vultures die in their hundreds and then are harvested and sold in medicine markets all over the place. And like I said, without vultures cleaning up the meat, these are white-backed vultures. You also do find Cape griffons, which may be part of this particular flock. It's difficult to say. There's quite a healthy population of Cape griffons in the area. There's a breeding colony on the escarpment close to Hoedspruit. For the most part, these are white-backed, the more common of the bushveld vultures. Those two big ones there in the background look like they could be Cape griffons. So cool to see. So as I was saying, without entire ecosystems would be poisoned because of the fact that decomposing meat out here is a problem. There aren't enough jackal and hyena to deal with the sheer number of carcasses that appear on the African surface on a daily basis. And if it wasn't for vultures cleaning up the carcasses, then it would be a problem. So they're vitally important to the health of ecosystems. They don't have grasping claws. They use their very powerful necks and beaks to tear at flesh. These particular vultures even have a modified tongue, which allows them to slurp up intestines really easily. You can imagine wet entrails, slimy entrails are not that easy to get into your mouth when you don't have hands. And their beaks and their tongues are modified to deal with that, so they can wolf it down. This shows you the nature of these cameras, and being a live show, you don't know what's going to happen during the show. Such a cool thing to see. You can see that vulture has a tag. Vultures being threatened are studied, and that vulture is obviously caught. A360. There you go. There will also be a ring on its leg. Yeah, you can see the ring on its leg as well, and that'll have a number on it, and that number will be recorded. We'll be able to find that somewhere. That vulture's got such a full crop as well. So they've had a meal. Another one. So you'll be able to send a screenshot of this to vulture conservation groups, and they'll tell you where this bird was actually caught, and what it's been doing and where it's being monitored. And sometimes you'd be surprised at the distances that these birds can travel. Let me tell you that vultures can be seen thousands of kilometers apart, sightings of vultures. They're just like great white sharks in the ocean and pop up in the most random places all over Africa. So great to see that that bird's had got a tag and that we were able to see it. And for those of you who have any interest in it, there'll be a lot of conservation groups dealing with Cape vultures. Or vultures in general, and you'll be able to then send in that tag number and see what information comes back at you. So vultures use thermals to fly, and what they do is they get up into the air. Characteristically, you see vultures gaining altitude by circling. And what they're doing there is just similar, they're utilizing hot pockets of air. And if you were to picture in your mind what a lava lamp looks like, you'll notice that initially the lava in the lamp sort of is hugging the base of the lamp, and then it pops off into a roughly circular or oval shape, and then it rises. And that's what happens with pockets of warm air in the atmosphere. We just can't see them because they're invisible. And these vultures will then fly into those pockets of air, and in the southern hemisphere, they usually circle clockwise. Being a low pressure system, Coriolis force dictates that the air inside those pockets would be circulating clockwise. So they will then circle clockwise as this column of rising air, or as this air rises, and they will get altitude really quickly with very little expenditure of energy. It's a very cool way of gaining height. They'll use their great eyesight to then locate other birds of prey that have spotted kills, and then one vulture reacts to another vulture, which reacts to another vulture, and that's how you get an a funnel developing of vultures from the web of vultures that are flying around in the sky. And at a kill like they've been visiting this morning, there goes the one with the tag for its swim. They get covered in blood and tummy contents when they feed. It's like a free-for-all. It is an unbelievable sight to see vultures finish a carcass. I've watched a flock of vultures finish a rhino carcass in 4 hours. Lion and hyena did not even have a chance to have one single bite. The vultures finished the whole thing. Mandy, you say this is so cool. You've never seen vultures behave this way. I agree with you fully. It is epic. I mean, we've just been so lucky that, during the course of the show, we just happened to be at Katapan to look at 2 Egyptian geese, and next thing a jackal came in, and next thing the vultures flew in, landed en masse. And now we're watching them having a bath and then suntanning their feathers dry. Those wings being supremely evolved for riding the thermals, as we were chatting about just now. And then vultures having eyesight that is really good. I mean, there's some reports that say vultures will be able to read a newspaper at a kilometer. And they definitely have intense binocular vision, magnified binocular vision. but I don't know to what degree they can focus on small details like that. They tend to watch the skies and their friends, and those friends will scan the earth directly beneath them. And what they'll do is look for lions and carcasses and jackals and hyena and other birds of prey like bateleur eagle or tawny eagle, and then come in, and that's how they call their mates.
Get ready for your daily dose of African wildlife magic. Be enchanted by the intimate moments shared by the animals as they drink, play, and interact in their natural habitat. With our daily wildlife videos, you'll experience the thrill of safari adventures without ever having to leave your seat. Let the wild adventure unfold right before your eyes. Africam, always live, always wild.
Such a great view of this vulture's beak there, that hooked beak, which it'll use to tear off chunks of meat. And then the beak itself is actually the two edges of the bottom of the beak and the top beak are lying quite close to one another, and the edges are super sharp. A vulture would literally be able to nip a piece off your finger without too much effort whatsoever. In fact, when you're handling vultures, it's one of those things that you've got to watch out for, and that you have to make sure that you don't get your fingers in the way of their beaks, and they snap at you like crazy, really strong. I'll do some damage to you. You are so privileged to see this. It is just really special. You see that vulture still suntanning on the ground, sort of just below center. The others drying their wings off after their shower. And we were just busy saying that these vultures need to maintain their feathers just like every other bird does. And so when you're dealing with carcasses and wet, and they need to bath just as much, if not more, than other birds. It's quite tough to distinguish between the Cape Griffon and the white-backed vultures, but the white-backed are larger. They're also a little more creamy. They've got a creamier rather than a brown tan colored feather. And then their eyes are a honey color as well. So their eyes are lighter than the darker color of the Cape Griffins. I mean, of the whiteback vultures. Whitebacks are a little bit more common in the bushveld. Cape Griffins exclusively nest on cliffs, whereas the whitebacks nest in the top of really tall. So their habitat is also different from where they have their nesting colonies. So I'm told that you've got a lot of screeching coming in off of this camera feed from these vultures. Just so classic to hear. And then Brian Gold has sent in a feedback on our vulture with the A360 tag. So this is exactly what is sent, and listen carefully here. So firstly, Brian, I just want to say thank you very much for doing the research. So A360 seen at Kadaipan is a female vulture and is one of the most widely traveled vultures ever tracked. She has flown over 2 million kilometers in her lifetime, visiting 14 different countries in Africa, including the Sahara Desert and the Congo rainforest. Goodness me. So, Brian, firstly, thanks. And secondly, just gosh. Let's see if we can pick her up again. So, she's one of the most widely traveled vultures that has ever been tracked. And having flown over 2 million kilometers since she had her tag put on, from equatorial African rainforests in the Congo to the Sahara Desert in North Africa and back now to Kadaipan in the Kruger National Park. I mean, some aeroplanes don't fly that far. That is insane. Brian, gosh, thank you for that piece of information. And I certainly feel super privileged to have seen her today. It's amazing. Makes you think about where these other vultures have been and traveled. She's just one in this flock. That's such a super piece of information. Gosh, I'm going to tell my son and partner about that today. That is such a noteworthy observation. Made my week, actually. And it's only Monday. Busy Bee, you've sent in a comment saying, "What a fab sighting. You've been waiting 4 months to see vultures like this." Well, I must agree with you there. This is an absolutely fabulous sighting. Super privileged to see vultures in these numbers. Super privileged to see Cape Griffin vultures. There she is. She's tagged. There we go. That's her with her wings open. That's A380. And then the next absolutely phenomenal thing is that vulture with her wings open. She's preening herself there. It's got a tag on her wings. And Brian Gold did some research for us while we were busy watching the show and sent in feedback that particular vulture is one of the vultures that has got the most is one of the most traveled vultures that's ever been recorded. She's flown over 2 million kilometers in her life since she's been tagged and has been seen from the Sahara Desert in North Africa through to the Congo rainforests, now to the African bushveld in South Africa. I mean, it's pretty much the length of the African continent, which is 10,000 kilometers long. I mean, it's just an unbelievable thing for us to be witnessing here. So, Ashley, you've asked an interesting question here because it's not really obvious. When you see eagles and things and you see vultures, the question inevitably comes up: do vultures hunt at all, or are they purely scavengers? So, Ashley, firstly, thank you for your question. And secondly, vultures are purely scavengers. They don't have the ability to hunt because they can't grasp with their feet. They don't have the claws, the powerful claws that the eagles and the falcons and the hawks have. And they're too big to bind to prey like your falcons would. So they don't hunt anything at all. In fact, they are purely scavengers and rely on carcasses from any number of sources. So, obviously, drought and disease feeds a lot of vultures, as do predators. So, cheetah, hyena, lion, wild dog, leopard often provide carcasses for vultures. Um, Drownings up in the Masai Mara, you find that wildebeest and zebra drown often and are washed up in these droves, and you find vultures there feeding on carcasses. Lightning kills a lot of animals in certain parts of the world, and that provides carcasses for vultures. There goes our female with a tag on. And I'm told that they are having a proper screech at each other. Oh, here we've got some even more interesting birds. Here's a flock of southern ground hornbills that have decided to come into the fray. These are critically endangered birds, so just like the Cape Griffins, and have decided to come in here and upset the apple cart. Gosh, what a treat today. There are only a handful of those birds with the red beaks. And what we're seeing here is two juveniles with a couple of adults. The juveniles are the ones without the red necks. They're coming in to have a drink. Goodness, what a show. Lenny, you'd like to know what the largest vulture is, and that would go to the lappet-faced vulture. So we haven't seen the smallest vulture, which is the hooded vulture, and we haven't seen the largest vulture, which is the lappet-faced vulture. And then there's another fairly uncommon vulture that we don't see here, which is the white-faced vulture. And then there's only been one record of a Ruppel's vulture, one or two records of Ruppel's vulture this far south. Definitely find Ruppel's vulture up in East Africa. They're relatively common there. And the Ruppel's vulture hold the record as being the highest flying vultures, flying taller than what Boeings do. But we are absolutely treated today to rare Cape Griffin vultures. They're the slightly creamier colored vulture, the larger creamier colored vulture. And then there in the background, we've got an unbelievable sighting of a southern ground hornbill as well, having joined this flock for goodness knows what. I still don't know. I'm still trying to decide. Many of the bird experts consider the southern ground hornbill to be sort of an ambassador for birds all over the place, as are the vultures, because of what they represent. And as hobbies, he's saying, "Wow, these hornbills are looking very dominant." Yeah, it's tough to know what they're doing. You know, it's a family group of hornbills, and they've got youngsters with them. And let me tell you that is the unit. You want to see adult southern ground hornbills with babies. They only have babies every 9 years or so, and so it's great to see. And I don't know what they're doing. They're being very territorial and herding these vultures all over the place. I don't know if they're trying to. I don't know what they're trying to do. You know, they're so rare, these birds, that I've never seen this before. So I've been guiding now 23, 24 years. And in all the tens of thousands of hours that I've been in the bush, I've never seen what we're looking at now. These birds are also ringed. So you'll notice that the southern ground hornbill adults also have rings on their feet. So they're also studied. And they've managed to successfully bully every single vulture off of this pan. What the hell? Like I said, I'm at a loss for knowing what is on here. There's no carcass here. Oh, I thought it was the eagle coming in. I'm at a loss to know why the hornbills are herding the vultures away like this. There's a carcass in the area. You might find that there's some competition for food, but I really don't know. There you can see the vultures in the distance in the sky there, flying up but also circling. When vultures like that, they're gaining, and you can see that they are flying clockwise. Gosh, these hornbill are just having the world's best game. I say I'm at a loss to know why there's a competition between these hornbills and the vultures. These hornbills are feeling insecure about the vultures on the ground somehow and are now chasing the vultures around. They don't even eat the same things. So I think these hornbills were just in the area, came rushing in here because these big birds looked like they were threatening their food source, now being territorial, insecure, and are chasing them around. That's what I think is going on. But frankly, who knows? I can say that this is an absolute treat, though, everyone. So, in the spirit of the lesson that I've learned, being human beings and not human doings, I'm just enjoying the sighting. And Pinky has also sent through a comment saying these hornbills, Pinky, sorry, not Pinky, you said, haha, you make me think of sheepdogs. And they are looking like they're wanting to just herd these vultures. I don't know what they're doing. They're obviously trying to chase them away. I think if these vultures all of a sudden all had to take flight and fly away, they'd be more than happy to, continue with their day. And for some reason, they've stopped what they were doing, completely disrupted their feeding to come and chase around these vultures and not let them drink and suntan and bath and, have a bit of a sand bath and dry themselves off. They just want to disrupt everything. A bizarre behavior. Like I said, I've never seen it before. I've never even been in a conversation where I've had this as a topic being brought up. So we're witnessing something that's fairly rare, at least by my standards. And I certainly can't remember when on WildEarth we've had lots of vultures from time to time, but when we've had southern ground hornbill and vultures in the same scene and chasing each other around, I can't remember there being an instance like that, although obviously I haven't watched every show over the last 10 years. Anyway, so the vultures are in decline because they're being poisoned and they're used in medicine markets all over Africa, unfortunately. Their body parts are used for a variety of different things, and so often poisoned carcasses are to blame for the demise of hundreds of vultures at a time, and it's an unsustainable practice. And then southern ground hornbill, their numbers are in decline mainly because of habitat destruction and large trees being broken and chopped down for any number of reasons. They nest in cavities in trees, large trees in particular. They only have a baby every 9 years or so. And it takes a long time to bring up youngsters. So there we have a new species of vulture that's coming. This vulture that's now in the foreground here is a hooded vulture, so the smallest vulture in this area. You can see just making his way in. They are usually responsible for picking the bones absolutely clean. So you got your lappet-faced vultures and your white-headed vultures that break the carcasses open if they're not broken open already. You then got your white-backed and Cape Griffin vultures that finish the insides and the majority of the meat. And then you've got the hooded vulture, which the little guy, if you were very sharp, you would have picked him up. He's now at the water. There he comes there. That's a hooded vulture. They're responsible for cleaning up the carcasses and stripping off every bit of morsel and connective tissue between the bones. And so even amongst the vultures, you have a role playing. Let's see, these hornbill look like they're coming down to drink, actually. Maybe that's what they were getting territorial of. They wanted to come down to drink, and the vultures were now in their way, and so they decided that they'd first chase the vultures around a little bit before settling down and drinking some water. There you go. He's wanting to drink there. I still don't know. I'm still not 100% certain. That was just me poking a guess at it. Of why the hornbills came running in, chased the vultures around. They look like they're drinking. They don't eat the same things. Those hornbills hunt. They're hunters, so they do definitely kill prey. They hunt snakes and lizards and insects and small mammals like mice and even things like tortoises. Definitely not the usual prey species for the vultures, who predominantly feed on large carcasses, mammals, killed by other things. Right. Now, not to do disrespect to to the vultures or our other cameras that we have all over the place, why don't we take a quick break from these? Oh no, we're going to stick here for now. Sorry, there was we were going to move over to another camera that had some Ellies at it, but I've just been told that the Ellies have moved off, and so we're going to stick around with the vultures for a bit longer. I'm sure you won't mind. See how wet this vulture is after having had a. Cooksters, you just sent in a comment and you said it's really an incredible moment to witness, a rewindable moment, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think what we did is we witnessed such amazing things in such a short period of time that it's difficult to actually comprehend what we've seen. So not only did we see vultures coming in and having a bath and how they maintain themselves and keep themselves clean after they've been feeding, we then saw the A380 vulture, which is, if you've just joined, it was a vulture with a tag on it. We had one of our viewers, Brian Gold, go and do research, and he found out that it was a female vulture that has a record for being one of the most widely traveled vultures ever recorded. She has covered 2 million kilometers over the course of the recording data set and has been seen from the Sahara Desert in North Africa to the equatorial forests of the Congo, right down now to South Africa here at Kataipan. And then, if that wasn't enough, we had a flock of a healthy flock with babies of southern ground hornbills, which are endangered species of birds, run in and decide to herd the vultures around for minutes before calming down. They're there at the background, you can just see them there. And so this has been an incredibly full and dynamic sighting, to be honest, and all of it done at eye level and very close. Gosh. But take a bit of a breather for one of the sighting, and then secondly, to do respect to the fact that we have other cameras that also need to shine. Why don't we go up to Kenya and go and have a look at what's happening around Old Donya? Ha! So we've got the usual suspects around Old Donya. So we've come 5,000 kilometers north. And what may for us be as easy as a flick of a switch, and for A380 Vulture, what she does with her day. We're lucky enough to witness a fairly large herd of Patterson's eland, which are the large tan-colored antelope there in the background, and the straight-horned fringe-eared oryx, which are also a rarity in the animal kingdom, and then some plain zebra, which, while not as common as wildebeest, are definitely a lot more common than either of the two other species that we're seeing here. Great to see so many animals. Gosh, the big bull eland there on the left of center. Upwards of 1,000 kilograms for a really big male. See how blue he is almost on the shoulders. sign of him being in his prime. Seems to be slightly less frantic. We were here a little bit earlier this morning, and that's a lot more zebra here. And they were kicking and biting at one another. These eland have added a calming note to the zebra. Minty Magic, you sent in a comment saying it's magic. It is actually. I mean, not only is it amazing that we can jump from Pan in South Africa, looking at endangered species of birds, vultures at very close eye level, but now we've come a couple of countries away further north and we're having a look at pretty rare fringe-eared oryx, Patterson's eland, which only occur up in East Africa, some zebra, with a cloud bank in the background topping Mount Kilimanjaro. You know, my question going, I wonder if A380 Vulture has flown in and around the flanks of Mount Kilimanjaro in her 2 million kilometer travels and more during her lifetime soaring through the skies of Africa. I wonder if she wondered in her mind about that mountain in the clouds and feasted on any of the mammals we're having a look at. You know, we tend to discount these animals' movements because of human endeavor. You know, we fly aeroplanes taller than Mount Kilimanjaro. We fly them further than what the vultures can fly, and oftentimes higher. And we travel around in our vehicles tens of thousands of miles and kilometers per year. And as a species, we're also remarkable. But we wouldn't be able to do that without machines. If you think about it, at a base, doing it with your feet or your wings, flapping your arms around for 2 million kilometers, or walking 1,000 miles every single year to move from one area to another in a great migration, it just starts to put it into stark contrast about how incredible the natural world is. Wally, you've noticed that zebras put their ears back from time to time, and you've asked, do zebras put their ears back when they're upset? Yes, they do. So it is definitely one of those. Wally, you've asked an interesting question based on an observation. You said that you've noticed that zebra put their ears back, and you've asked if they do that when they're upset. 100% right. They do put their ears back when they're upset. It's more a sign of insecurity, to be honest with you. They obviously use their ears, their ears are shaped as parabolic sound receptors, and so they do move their ears around their head to accurately place sound, and then for the sound to be amplified into their ear holes. So that's the one function. But they also use their ears as part of their body language. And so it's a communication tool as well, because they can move them and orientate them, make the shape look different. And one of the things that they do is when they are upset with one another in close quarters, they'll put their ears back. I think it's mainly because it makes them look less inquisitive, and so it's an obvious statement. And secondly, it gets the ears out of the way for a nip. The zebra do bite at one another, and having your ears in the way means that there will be a handle for your opponent to grab and use as leverage. And so, Wally, I hope that that answers the question. But yes, a great observation from you there. Another observation I've just made is that these female eland that we're having a look at, these 3 eland, have some of the longest horns that I've seen out of these eland since we started watching. That female right of center is probably the longest pair of horns, and that one that's in the center now, close to it, maybe even a bit longer. I don't think I've seen females with horns that long. It's like a day of firsts today. This pan is pretty much finished. Interestingly, the water, it's an artificial water point, and the water is filled up by the nearby Oldonia camp and forms part of their water reticulation system in their camp. So it's actually part of the water that you see in the pan, and part of the purification process of wastewater that comes out of the lodge, which is a really good thing. And then it's augmented by rainwater that was harvested months back last wet season. This is the time of year where resources are poor. This morning there's just been an astounding amount of animals at this pan. Finished the water that's available right now. Doesn't mean that there's no other water around, or that as soon as they're able to, the camp won't top up the pan. So don't despair, it will be temporary.
Do you want to contribute towards leaving a legacy for future generations? Raise Your Hand for Rhino strives to keep wild animals wild, with a focus on anti-poaching, conservation projects, habitat management, and veterinary services. Raise Your Hand for Rhino needs your help. Go to the WildEarth website and donate to the cause. Raise Your Hand for Rhino, leaving a legacy for future generations. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
Doesn't look like it, but this giant bull eland in the center of the screen is able to jump 3 straight up into the air. They're incredible jumpers. Can you imagine lifting a ton of body weight 3 meters into the air, the type of muscles that requires. Two young males coming in for a drink. These guys are adolescents. Come and sip at the mud milkshake that these zebra have left in the wake of all their chaos this morning. So just as an update, there's a time change in October expected. So from the 1st of October, we will be doing a time change for the sunrise show that's going to be starting at 5:30 in the morning Central Africa time. Live at the Waterhole will start at 10:30, and the sunset safari will be starting at 3 o'clock, all Central Africa time. So again, the sunrise safari will start at 5:30 a.m. CAT. The late Live at the Waterhole show will start at 10:30 CAT, and the sunset safari will start at 3 C. Please make a note of that from the 1st of October. Epic sighting at this pan, but with the water having dried up, I would imagine that these animals are going to make their way to other water points or for other waiting around. Anyway, let's go and have a look at what's happening at Tembe. We don't often go there, and it's going to be cool to see what's around that water right now. So we've now come from Kenya to South Africa, up 1,000 miles south, and we come to a camera we don't often visit, but which is spectacular. This is the Africam Tembe Cam in Tembe Elephant Reserve. We're in South Africa, but tucked right into the sort of far east of South Africa, on the borders of Mozambique, and is one of the places in South Africa and in Africa in general where large tusked elephant occur still. And you can see we've got 2 or 3 massive bull elephant there. Not considered a super tusker. Super tuskers are elephant bulls that are tusks that rest on the floor, but definitely you're looking at large tusked bull elephant here. Those tusks are easily, I don't know, as tall as I am, as long as I am, 6 foot. Remarkable. Goodness. Let's see if there's some record as to whether or not we can find an identity for these tusked bulls. Give me 1 second. So we've got a lot of birds. I'm assuming that you can hear a lot of birds on the video feed at the moment. I'm just told that you can. Another thing about Tembe, not only does it have some of the largest tusked bull elephant in Africa and therefore in the world, but it is also an area of massive bird biodiversity. In fact, close to here and at Pinda, they win the big birding day birding competition every year. Every year there's an annual big birding day. Gosh, there's some massive elephants. So I did find a list of large tusked bulls. It's going to be difficult to try and figure out who's who, but what I can do is I can read to you about some of them. So it doesn't look like Chotoza is there. He's got large tusks that are inwardly curved. I'm trying to see, we got Mandla, young bull with almost straight down pointing tusks. Mfongeni, inward curved tusks and got some notches in his ear. With Mr. Half Ear, with, oh no, he passed away. Ndoda Msani is no longer in Tembe. NR 110, inward curving tusks with raggedy ears. Stone, classically curved tusks. Velempini, inwardly curved tusks. And then Zake, which is upwardly curved tusks and some ragged ears. So these elephant that we're looking at now, these massively tusked bulls that we're looking at now are will be some of those elephants that have got these characters in their names. And we're just seeing so many of them at the Waterhole at the moment. It's really cool. Called Esilo, which has fathered many of the bulls with the tusks that we're seeing at the moment. So, like I said, the interesting thing about these massively tusked bulls that we see now is the fact that the really, really big bulls are going to have names and characters, because obviously being massively tusked means that they're quite unique, and they'll have a history and a character in a reserve like the Tembe Elephant Park. And we've had one of our Zoomies just call in and say that Isilo has fathered many of the bulls with the big tusks, which is really great to know. And we may be looking at him right now. I mean, that is a giant bull elephant. That's an elephant that weighs 5,000 kilograms, and I could walk straight under his front legs, looking fairly small because of the distance that we have. But those tusks are thick as my waist and maybe 6 foot long, weighing close on, I don't know if they'd quite be at the 100-pound mark, but definitely not far off. Really cool. We've got such a collection of these large tusked elephant bulls today. Usually you only see one or two around. We're seeing pretty much all of them today. So nice to see. A herd of female nyala that have just popped into view and are coming down for a drink as well. Most of these ellies are just standing in the shade at the moment. That's because it is very hot today. Let's see how hot it is actually at Tembe now. All right, but there's a bit of a gremlin cropping into the audio feed, which is buzzing around. So what we'll do is we're going to go and have a look at another camera feed while we try and sort that out. There we came a couple of thousand kilometers further west, and we're now at Jamala, which is in Madikwe Game Reserve, right on the Botswana border. So we were a minute ago not even a couple of seconds ago, we were on the Mozambique South African border. We're now on the South African Botswana border. We're having a look at a herd of Cape buffalo in the background, some zebra, some kudu on the left-hand side, and then obviously not forgetting the fact that we've still got a herd of elephant busy drinking at the water. Another great show from Jamala, which tends to really do perform really well this time of the year. Has gifted us such great sightings. The big five consisting of buffalo, elephant, lion, leopard, and rhinoceros. Being named so for being the five most dangerous animals to encounter on foot and deal with on foot. Does not include cheetah or crocodile, because they're all rather timid in daytime scenarios. Hippo only really become dangerous when you're on the water with them, or when you are in their way when they're returning or moving from water at nighttime or in the early morning. Cheetah being very timid, and crocodile, unless you're swimming around in the water, are not dangerous at all. But as we've so often seen, the temptation to want to get into the water is high. And then crocodile and hippo take precedence. They, between the two of them, are responsible for most of the human deaths in Africa from large mammals, or even more deadly than elephant, leopard, lion, buffalo, and rhino combined. Maybe you've just sent in a comment to say that you now like daytime TV because of this channel. I must agree with you, Busy Bee. It is a fantastic thing to have on in the background or entertainment on a day like this. It is blisteringly hot outside, and so we're not outside, and so having this on the screen, watching everything that we're watching, is really, really wonderful. And because it's live, we don't really know what's going to happen next, and so anything could happen at any of these cameras at any time. We've had a really busy morning so far, having had epic elephant sightings, great general game, and then a absolutely fantastic, unique sighting of vultures and southern ground hornbills. And even a jackal. Brennan, you'd like to know how tall elephants are in feet typically. So a big bull elephant will stand 3.5 meters at his shoulder, and there are 3 feet to a meter. So you're looking at 3 times 3 plus another half. So 12 to 15 feet at the top of their heads for an adult bull. And then you're looking at obviously slightly shorter than that for females and calves. You saw there that kudu sunk right, her whole front leg sunk right deep. She's trying to get to water. I just hope that she doesn't get stuck there. This is the time of year where antelope with sharp, pointy, hard hooves do get stranded in mud wallows. And it's not an uncommon sighting to see animals struggling a lot to get out of the mud, sometimes futilely so, and will then be picked off by a hyena and lion, crocodile, etc. I hope that that kudu doesn't fall victim to the mud. But it is all part of the natural world out here, and so it just is what it is.
Those sounds just go straight through you.
So cool that we got that impala busy drinking amongst all the giants. Well, the buffalo have now moved off. The elephants are still enjoying the water coming out of the inlet pipe. And we got some babies and some adults, all with that characteristic coloration that the Madikwe have. Elephants here having that reddish color more often than not. And that's picked up from the soil that is around Madikwe, which in some areas is quite red. They'll pick up that soil from the dust bathing and from the mud wallows that they frequent. Here comes a big bull elephant. Let's see what he's going to be doing. Probably come and muscle his way into this herd, but we'll see when he arrives. Characteristic head shake that they get when they approach water. I don't know why they do it. Zebra do it as well. You can see that zebra. This bull elephant doesn't look like he's going to come around the side of the pan, but let's just see. There he gives himself a bit of a head shake. That's just to announce his presence. they would have, these herd of elephant would have known that that bull elephant is arriving way before we could even see him. They use infrasound to communicate with one another, and they would have been fully aware of him coming. That head shake was just more, I suppose, just imposing his dominance on the area. Still on the other side of the pan, though. Although he's entered it, he's going to come now. Probably cool himself down by splashing some mud behind his ears, and then come and wrestle his way into the freshwater inlet for his drink. Probably a little bit of... Yeah, he's coming now, you see. Very soft, but insistent nonetheless. You can see there, just making his way to that inlet, much bigger than everyone else, and so make way. I'm a coming. All right, let's go and have a look at what's happening at Tau, just a few kilometers away. Back to the birds and a green water paradise as opposed to the muddy pans we've been having a look at and the giant elephants that we're looking at Tembi. The Tau is just one of those spots that have just been producing animals left, right, and center for us to have a look at. So this African Tau cam has been something we've been coming back to often. And there in the center of the screen, what we opened up was a grey heron. That heron pretty much is a bird we see all day, along with the accompanied white-faced duck on her left-hand side, or its left-hand side. There's also been a pair of spoonbills, African spoonbills here. There's a spur-winged goose as well, which is Africa's largest goose. And a bunch of red-knobbed coot. That is that bird we're looking at that just came into the picture. And the white face. And there's also some crocodile around here as well. There's 5 crocodile. I've only ever seen 3 of them at most. And with the water levels dropping the way that they are, fish are being stranded, and so we've been watching crocodiles hunting fish. We'll see what happens in the next couple of minutes. So I'm told that you can hear some birds calling in the background, which is really cool. It's not all about just hearing my voice drone on in the background, and it's also about actually enjoying the fact that these cameras are pretty sensitive microphones and allowing you to hear what's going on over there. It looks to be a monitor lizard there on the far bank, there where those ducks are. Oh no, it was another white-faced duck. They're chasing each other around, having a bit of an argument. Prince Essay, who's calling us from Soweto in Johannesburg, says that he watches this channel literally every single day. So I just want to say thank you, Prince. Thanks for your eyeballs on the screen, man. I'm super chuffed that we get to fill your day with all this content that, I don't know, I quite enjoy, frankly. I love doing the show. And we've got a white-faced duck. And the dark bird with the white face is a red-knobbed coot. See the two red knobs on top of his head. Adult. Both the male and the female are very similar, very tough to actually tell apart. So I don't know whether that's a male or a female. And then in the background, we've got that white-faced duck. Is he working through the mud there? Actually, is it a white-faced duck? Looks a bit big to be a white-faced duck. Might be a shell duck. And there we have a blacksmith lapwing. A pair of them. They also frequent visitors around the pan. And a little bird you can just see under the right-hand lapwing there. That is a three-banded plover. Monica, you'd like to know if birds form bird parties for safety reasons. I think it's a great suggestion, Monica. I can't imagine why they wouldn't. I do definitely think so, specifically if they're not in competition for the same food source. So you've got ducks and the coots, which eat different things. You've got herons, which eat different things to them again. You've got the plovers, which eat different things to them again. So I think that there's an absolute chance that that's right. Definitely is a white-faced duck and not a shell duck. So just to get my identity right. The two white-faced duck we're having a look at there. So I think so. It makes sense for birds to band together. We've got a sandpiper next to the three-banded plover there on the left-hand side. Really great shot. And I suppose very similar to how impala, zebra, giraffe, eland, oryx, springbuck hang around together as well this time of the year. But there is safety in numbers. And while there isn't much food around, you might as well help each other avoid being breakfast, lunch, or supper. No sign of the crocodiles today. Yet, at least, anyway. It's WildEarth's mission to reconnect people with nature. And one of the ways that helps us to do this is through donations. And so if you feel like donating to the cause, please feel free to just go and visit the website, follow the donations tabs, and we appreciate that immensely. Helps us to bring you these epic videos every single day. They are live, as you know, so this is happening right now. It's 11 where I'm now. Much the same in Madikwe. I wonder where these crocodiles are hiding out today. There are 5 of them in this water body. I've only ever seen 3 at any one time. Some impala in the top of the screen. This plane yesterday was just absolutely covered with elephant and wildebeest and zebra. Ah, there we go, some greater kudu. Those are 2 males. Magnificently horned. Here we have 2 male greater kudu. You don't really find lesser kudu in South Africa at all. You only start finding them up in East Africa, and then in very unique, thickly wooded, bushy thickets. Most of the kudu that you see are the greater kudu, and these are 2 spectacularly horned males. It's rare to find 3 full spirals, so 3 forward-facing faces of the horns. I did see one the other day. Normally it's about 2.5, 2 3/4 maximum length. These 2 bulls, 1, 2, 2 and a bit. Some pied crows coming in. It's such a cool show. Great job with the camera. There we go, there's a spur-winged goose. Center screen bottom with some black-winged stilt, and then there's the spoonbill that we've seen. Safari Girl, thank you very much for the compliment. I really, really appreciate that. You just said that my commentary is educational. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it and helpful. So I hope that you enjoyed. I sometimes feel like I do drone on a little bit, but it's all for a good cause. You can see this is a young-ish bull. He's old enough to be on his own, so he's mature. He's not an adolescent, but he still has 2 or 3 years to go before he's in his prime and will be eligible to contest with other bigger bulls for mating rights over females. You do get bulls with horns that are narrow like this, and then you get bulls with wide, splayed open horns. So the variability in horn length and also horn shape in terms of angle is very wide with kudu. It just depends on the genetics that they have. And again, it's just a matter of personal aesthetic preference. Do you like kudu horns to be deep curled, in other words, wide loops, and narrow, or deeply curled and wide, or tightly curled and wide, or tightly curled and narrow. It just all depends on your own sense of symmetry and appeal. Here's a squirrel in the background running on the road. These cameras are incredible. So there's a slight breakup in my audio. I apologize for that. Today and yesterday we were battling with certain gremlins on my particular feed. So I apologize for that. But we do bring you these feeds live from very remote places in Africa, and I'm not sitting next to these cameras at all. I'm actually very close to the Kruger National Park. In fact, I'm looking at it right now out of the window. I'm in the southern Kruger today, close to a rest camp called Skukuza, right on the Sabi River, one of the main rivers in this part of the world. And we're busy having a look at Madikwe, which is a couple of 1,000 kilometers from where I'm sitting right now, up on the Botswana border. Really great view of kudu, impala, spurwing goose, a number of other different types of birds at Africam's Tau Lodge Cam. All right, so why don't we go and see one of our other cameras? Why don't we head up to Kenya and go and have a look at Oldonia while we wait for the scene to reset around Tau and our other feeds. With that, we're 4 countries away at 5,000 kilometers, and we're looking at another incredible dazzle of zebra busy kicking at the last little bits of water and mud in the pan. Mount Kilimanjaro still hasn't stuck her head out of the clouds, which is a pity because the sky looks so clear today. I think if it wasn't for those clouds, you would see her shining there in the distance. Since early this morning, we've watched a number of zebra coming into the water, and they're all busy kicking and bickering over the dwindling resource. And some fringe-eared oryx on the right. I would imagine there's even some eland and some Maasai giraffe. That's the most common of the animals that we see around this pan. Not always seeing the same individuals, obviously. I do think there's a local population, but what we're noticing is that as the water gets lower, the tempers are flaring up with these zebra. They're kicking and bickering a lot, actually, because of it. And I'm told that we can hear, or you can hear them making that typical zebra neighing noise, which is pretty cool. We're really quiet in Africa. It's the quietest place that I've been was in the center of the Mahari salt pans. I took a 20-minute run as fast as I could into the middle of the pan. Well, not the middle. The pan is a couple of 1,000 square kilometers big. I just took a 20-minute run into the pan away from the edge. And I sat down and I could hear nothing. I could only hear my own heartbeat. There was nothing else making a noise. It's the quietest place I've been on earth. See that oryx just came into the view there now. That's a fringe-eared oryx, as opposed to the southern oryx that we see at our other cameras, specifically Okokweyo in Namibia. You know, all of a sudden the animals have decided to move off. Ah, that is exactly why. Elephant just charged into the side. Has decided that it needs to come and drink with immediate haste. There's another one there as well. Pretty cool that they just arrive out of nowhere. And like I said, you know, this is a live show. We don't really know what we're going to be seeing. There's not much water left here. See, there is a little bit trickling in actually from the inlet. I think there's so many animals around here today. The pan's going to take a while to fill up actually.
Do you want to contribute towards leaving a legacy for future generations? Raise Your Hand for Rhino strives to keep wild animals wild, with a focus on anti-poaching, conservation projects, habitat management, and veterinary services. Raise Your Hand for Rhino needs your help. Go to the WildEarth website and donate to the cause. Raise Your Hand for Rhino, leaving a legacy for future generations. WildEarth, it's in your nature. You see that big bull elephant. Let's see what he's going to do. Just decided to give his massive head shake. You would have heard that quite clearly on the camera feed.
You can carry for hundreds of meters through the bush when an elephant does that. Such a great view of these elephants. Sort of quintessential, this African Aldonia camel in Kenya. Really massive tusked bull elephant, huge Patterson's eland and zebra. Not much water today. There you have this giant, two giants, this big tusked bull elephant and then a Patterson's eland bull as well, full grown. You listen very carefully amongst the chaos, you'd hear that eland's knees clicking. Safari Girl, you'd like to know if these zebra would join the Great Migration. I don't think so, Safari Girl. The zebra that are part of the Great Migration are currently all around northern Tanzania, the Lamai Wedge, close to the Mara River. And there's about 250, 300,000 of them, and they travel with the world from Masai Mara in Kenya. It's seasonal, so there's no real start, and it's cyclical, so there isn't really a start or an end to the migration. It's just they're at certain parts of the migration at different times of the year. Right now, they're southern Kenya, northern Tanzania, on the Mara River, and once the rains start falling, they'll start following the rains south, and will pickle all the way down to Ndutu in Tanzania, far to the south of where we're at now. And they'll get there around about December. They'll have their babies there. And then once the rains stop and the water dries up and the food deteriorates, they'll then follow the rains north. And they'll mate around the Grimeti River, which is sort of northwestern Tanzania. There's plains there and a river there. And then they'll make their way sort of dry season back into the Masai Mara and Mara Triangle, the Lamai Wedge area, concentrate there in large numbers and spend the dry season there before making their way back south again once the rain starts. But other zebra in other areas, they don't need to do that because they have food and water all year round. You do find some local movement of animals though, so seasonally they will move from one area to another, and elephants in particular, you sometimes find them, these particular elephants, you find them in Amboseli a little bit, you might find them into Savo, or they come from Savo and they set up camp here. The older they get, they like certain areas more. So they definitely do move, but it won't be the part of the Great Migration in the greater Serengeti ecosystem. Such a bright day out there. Being on the equator, the sunlight, the sun intensity in this part of the world is really hard. So although the day's temperatures are usually quite mild, the sort of mid 20s, mid to upper 20s on a really hot day, you find that the intensity of sunlight is intense. You get burnt on the equator pretty hectically. Much hotter in other areas of Africa at times, one of them being the Kruger National Park in the low veld, and Madikwe, where that's in the desert, so often getting to the upper 40s, even 50s. Patty, you've made a comment that says that it's amazing how they're sharing so little, and I agree with you. There's two inlet pipes into this particular pan, both of which are carrying water at the moment. The elephant on the far left and the elephant on the far right are at them, obviously having the lion's share of the water. But there's a trickle that'll fill the pan up, and through the course of the day, definitely will increase the level of the water. But animals are actually, elephant and zebra can be pretty intolerant of anything around pans, but in actual fact, they're all very respectful. There's a hierarchy out in the African bush, and if you follow and are respectful of that, the African bush will respect you back in return, but you have to adhere to its rules. If we go in there with our usual arrogance, we often get taught lessons in humility. But as soon as you are respectful of animals' right to live in these wild places, know your place, often what happens at that particular point is you have a harmony with everything around you. All right, why don't we go and see what's at Cat Pan? Some vultures there a bit earlier, and let's see what the scene looks like now. All right, and a completely different scene to what we had there a little bit earlier. We've now come back into South Africa to the Greater Kruger National Park, to Afrikam's Cat Pan, and where we left southern ground hornbills and a whole bunch of vultures a little bit earlier. We have a young bull elephant, and he's now come down to the water for a drink. He's also drinking the fresh water in the well. These things change. As you can see, it's quite hazy. Today there's sort of high level clouds, but the sun is streaming through quite strongly. We're going to be getting up to the 100-degree Fahrenheit, 40-degree centigrade mark here today. And so this pan is going to be playing an ever increasingly important role in keeping the animals in this local vicinity well hydrated, including this bull elephant, who will drink around about 180, 200 liters of water a day, usually in one sitting around this time of the year. He's a youngster though. I would say somewhere between 15 and 22 years old. If I were to guess. And that I made my assumption based on his overall condition and size of his tusks, what condition they're in, the shape and the condition of his ears, his shape of his skull is in a relation to his body mass, how thick and heavy set he looks. And just he just looks clean. He looks like a youngster. We heard him sloshing around in the water. He doesn't look like he's drinking a lot. It looks like there's another Eddie coming in. Another bull elephant, probably around about the same age. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an even bigger elephant bull arrive now, just like we had at El Doño. And to find that these two youngsters are Ascaris to an older bull elephant. Immediately coming in here, there's fresh water.
Do you want to touch the lives of future protectors of our Earth? Thanks to our wonderful WildEarth explorers, WildEarth Kids is back. Sign your class up for WildEarth schools and enjoy a special virtual field trip to Africa with interactive learning tailored for kids.
Very warm welcome to the kids from WildEarth Primary School.
We'll be dedicating the first hour of sunset safaris every Wednesday to our planet's future defenders. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
See, that elephant would have been picking up the scent there of the vultures that were playing on the ground, smelling what they've left behind. Those vultures obviously having finished the kill. I'm just assuming, I didn't see there was a kill here, but I'm assuming there was a kill close by last night. Some lions were in the area. The vultures then finished off the carcass this morning and then came to bath off the blood and entrails and stickiness from feeding. And then they would have taken off. And the hooded vultures and the whiteback vultures may, depending on how much they got to eat, would then return to the skies, questing further for any other carcasses, or if they were full enough, they may have returned to their nests in the tops of trees in the local area. The white-backed vultures would have done the same thing, either returned to a quest for more food if they didn't manage to get enough, or they'd go back to their nesting colonies, which are on cliffs, closest of which a couple of 100 kilometers from where these elephants are, in the Drakensberg Mountains. Sounds quite romantic, that, right? There's a breeding colony close to a town called Hoedspruit, harboring about 600 pairs of Cape Griffon, the endangered Cape Griffon vulture. One of the largest breeding colonies in South Africa. There's a couple of these colonies, not very many. That's the closest one. But as our tagged birdie 80 showed us, they could range very far. She was a tagged bird, and during the record of where she's been seen, she's gone all the way from the Kruger National Park up to the Sahara and back down to the Congo forests, and is one of the longest traveled vultures that have been ever recorded. She's flown over 2 million kilometers to get to where she was today, which I found absolutely phenomenal. Birchall starling that just landed on the far side, that glossy black bird that just ran toward the weir. We just had a report that Alzumi can hear some lions in the background. I don't know if you can. Maybe growling at each other, scraps of the food. See that elephant, he's just busy sniffing at the floor there where all those vultures were lying about. Elephant obviously having a great sense of smell. Would be quite inquisitive as to all of that. Julie, how are you doing today? It's great to hear from And you asked what animal interactions make you laugh or make me laugh the most. Gosh, baboons are pretty funny. Honey badgers and people, hyena with one another, also a bit comical. I love watching warthog rub themselves in the mud. They make me chuckle. Elephant also have a very comical way, and it's because they're so awkward when they scratch themselves after a mud bath, especially youngsters. Young elephants running after their mothers when they get all insecure, getting stuck on banks make me chuckle a little bit. They panic about getting stuck in the mud or whatever. The antics are pretty humorous. So there's a lot of interactions that actually make me laugh. Those being just a few of them. This elephant's spending a large amount of time sniffing at where the vultures were lying up a few hours ago. I would imagine that it's a pretty unique smell and would have piqued Ellie's interest. There's no kill here, so it wouldn't be associated to any dying. Although from reports it looks like the lions might be lying up pretty close. They'll probably at some point come down to the pan for a drink. Lions with full bellies of meat will drink, and this would be the closest water that they can go and have a drink. The elephant's still very inquisitive as to all these bizarre smells that he's smelling around. There's no vultures sitting in the nearby tree. There seems to be a large bird in a dead tree off on the left-hand side. That may be where the kill is. There don't seem to be any vultures sitting in the dead trees around here, which means that the kill is probably finished. Or the lions are completely dominating it. There's no food for anyone else. And they've moved off to find easier pickings elsewhere. What is most likely the case, though, is that when the vultures finished off the entrails and the leftovers from the carcass, and I think those lions are probably lying up in the shade somewhere close by, working off their dinner. Depending on the size of the pride of lions, they can be pretty variable, anywhere from a single female or male all the way up to, lion prides above 20 to 25 individuals. The Ellies arrived so suddenly and they were so big. Let's see if he decides to have a shower to cool down. There's a nice beach here with some sediment that's accessible to their trunks. Or is he going to carry on sniffing around, trying to figure out the puzzle that he's busy smelling? So, Willie, you've asked an interesting question there. There's some birds in the tree there. Oh, there's a third bird. I'll answer your question now. Where is Cat-Eye Pan? Cat-Eye Pan, those are vultures, is in the Greater Kruger National Park, close to Naledi, north of Hoedspruit. So between Hoedspruit and Phalaborwa are the two towns outside of the Greater Kruger National Park. And I suppose, see those vultures sitting there in the trees. So I think that carcass is somewhere here where we're looking at now, and you most probably find that those lions are lying up here somewhere. For there to be vultures around, there's got to be some motivation for that. And you most probably find that there's still some of that carcass left. Not enough for a lot of vultures to be around. You can see that while there are a lot of dead trees around, there's not a lot of vultures. Definitely a pan to keep your eye open on, because there will be, if the lions are full, they will come down and drink at the water. For sure. So Willie, so it's in South Africa, on the eastern side of South Africa. The closest town would be Hoedspruit or Phalaborwa, Phalaborwa, Phalaborwa. It sort of lies between the two. There's a road called the R40, and Cat Pan would be east of the R40 and west of the Kruger National Park's of the actual state-owned part of the Kruger National Park's boundary. I'll give you an idea. Close to Naledi Camp. Give you an idea of where we are.
Get ready for your daily dose of African wildlife magic. Be enchanted by the intimate moments shared by the animals as they drink, play, and interact in their natural habitat. With our daily wildlife videos, you'll experience the thrill of safari adventures without ever having to leave your seat. Let the wild adventure unfold right before your eyes. Africam, always live, always wild.
So great to see this illy walking off. We'll see now if he's inquisitive enough to go and track down the carcass and chase the lions around if they're lying over there. Elephant don't tolerate lion. We'll chase them around. In this area, it's not uncommon, but it's really rare to see lion hunting elephant. There are other places in Africa, of course, where elephant are hunted by lion. Places like Savuti National Park. There's prides of lion there that have become pretty good at hunting elephant. Quite incredible that this elephant tried to cool himself down by wetting behind his ears yet. I'm quite content to just be drinking at the moment. See how hot it is here. It's 30 degrees now, so it's not that hot, but it'll get a bit hotter through the day. It's about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, cool. All right, let's leave this Ellie to the rest of his drink and go and have a look at Tau and see what we've got going around that water. Alrighty, so we've now come 1,000 kilometers or so west and into Madikwe Game Reserve, and we're looking at the Africam Tau Lodge feed, or Tau Cam feed, and a warthog that is enjoying the grass growing on this mud flat. And it's a young female. There you got a blacksmith lapwing to give you some context as to size. That lapwing will probably stand about mid-shin on an adult. So not a very big warthog. But a warthog nonetheless. And grass eaters, loving to eat the rhizomes of grass, which are those fleshy parts below the leaves. And they really do take strain at these dry times of the year where the grass all dies back. But this one has managed to figure out there's some morsels to be had on this floodplain. He's doing a great job of keeping the lawn mowed. They can also get stuck in the mud if they're not careful. I think that the roots of the grass there is matting the mud together quite nicely. I think that warthog's pretty safe. Busy Bee, you say that warthogs always make you smile. They are a little bit comical, aren't they? He's the best when they go for a bath and then have a scratch afterwards. That also never ceases to provide entertainment for me. See that this warthog has got mud like all the way up its legs. It's actually been quite deep into the mud, probably to try and get to the edge of the water to have a drink. Doesn't look like it had a mud bath. Its belly doesn't have much mud on it, neither does its flanks. Anyway, great sighting for the last minute or so. It has come for me, unfortunately, to start saying my thank yous and goodbyes. We've had such an incredible show today. For me, the best was meeting our A380 vulture female. And we did it a bit earlier during that flock where a flock of vultures descended onto Kataipan, and then were chased around by an inquisitive southern ground hornbill flock that arrived as well. But we've had elephants and lots of general game. We've been all over the place, from Kenya all the way across to Greater Kruger. Oh, sorry, A360, excuse me, not A380. Gosh, I'm getting confused between my airplanes and my vultures at the moment. So A360 was the vulture's code. And so, yeah, thank you from me to all of you with your eyeballs on the screen today. Without you guys, nothing would be possible. So thank you for your support. It's been a pleasure to host you today. Thank you to all our partners and to everyone that makes WildEarth tick and continue to do so. You guys are incredible. And again, just absolute gratitude from everyone with eyes on the screen. And then, of course, notwithstanding all the staff that make this possible, I just want to say thank you to you from the bottom of my heart. You guys do a fantastic job. So wherever you are, enjoy this Monday and stay safe. I'm going to enjoy the rest of our Heritage Day. And yeah, looking forward to it. So all the best your side. Keep well. Ciao.